Earlier today, Jorge Jimenez was hinting that a new Batman creative team was going to be announced. We knew that he was going to be a part of it because he said he wasn't leaving the title even when Joshua Williamson took over. We finally have the details. We have the identity of the new Batman writer. We knew this was coming. Joshua Williamson is very overtasked right now at DC Comics doing Dark Crisis and a bunch of other projects. The new writer is going to be Chip Zdarsky. I think this is a fantastic get for DC Comics as far as who to lead the next iteration of Batman. I couldn't be more excited about this particular team being together. I actually had an interview for another YouTube channel earlier today, and they said, what would you do with Batman? I said, I would put Chip Zdarsky on it. So it appears that DC Comics and I are on the same wavelength. This is breaking news. This video won't be quite as tidy as you would have expected normally here on the channel, but it is 4:30 a.m. I do need to get out before I go to bed. So we're going to go through the details. There are a couple quotes in here. I'm going to give you my thoughts on Chip Zdarsky taking over, why I think he's a great choice for this, and why this portends good news for DC Comics. Let's get to the details. Award-winning writer Chip Zdarsky is about to bring DC Comics Batman into a new era. Zdarsky will be taking over as writer of the main Batman title in July, with art from one of the title's most recent artists, Jorge Jimenez. The duo's collaboration on the title will begin with Failsafe, a 6-issue story arc that kicks off July 5th's oversized Batman 125. This will mark Zdarsky's latest contribution to the Batman mythos, following the Black Label maxi series Batman the Night and stories in Batman Urban Legends, Batman Black and White, and Detective Comics 1027. Chip Zdarsky has pretty much done a great job no matter what character he's on. They gave him Spider-Man. The first trade on that one is absolutely horrendous. He got feedback. He actually changed the style of writing Spider-Man, and we got one of the best modern Spider-Man runs that you'll ever read. If you haven't read Peter Parker's Spectacular Spider-Man 310, go read it. That's written and illustrated by Zdarsky himself. It is one of the best Spider-Man comic books you'll ever read in your life. He also does Daredevil over at Marvel Comics. Obviously, they've got the Devil's Reign event going on right now. Daredevil is a similar character to Batman. Obviously, there's some key changes between the two, but grounded, street level, fighting crime in the streets. So he's done a fantastic job, and he has a great artist on that one, Marco Cicchetto. So I think we've seen him work with similar characters, and they've worked very well. We've seen him work with flagship characters. Maybe he wasn't on Amazing Spider-Man, but he was on a big-name Spider-Man project, and he did great on there. I believe that he is the perfect choice for this. When it talks about the Batman Urban Legends story, they're talking about his Red Hood story that he did, which was, I believe, in the first 6 issues. Fantastic. I hope it's collected in trades. It appears that DC Comics were priming him to take over the Batman title. He does have Batman the Night, which is essentially a retelling of the origins of Bruce Wayne Batman. Don't know that it's completely necessary, but it is very high quality. Chip Zdarsky, in my opinion, as far as the big two go, I think that he's the best writer at Marvel Comics right now, and this is an enormous get to bring him over to Batman. It's also a little bit surprising because Zdarsky himself has taken interviews, and they've asked him why he wouldn't take over a character like Batman, and he said he doesn't want the editorial oversight and interference to mess with the stories. Maybe he was slow rolling us, and he knew that in the back of his mind he was going to be doing this. Fantastic choice for Batman. This is the choice I would have made if I was the EIC or the publisher at DC Comics. If I was in Jim Lee's shoes, Zdarsky would have been the name that I would have went after due to the quality of the stories that he has going on. Jorge Jimenez speaks for himself to DC Comics audiences. Obviously, he was doing Batman with James Tynion. The art was not a problem. It's some of the best Batman art you'll ever see in your life. Before that, he was doing a lot of work on Super Sons. I describe it as American manga. One of the best artists in comic books today, and probably the best artist at DC right now that we've had some of the mainstays kind of step away, Greg Capullo, Jason Fabak, Gary Frank, and whatnot. Jorge Jimenez, Chip Zdarsky is pretty much a dream team to put on a Batman comic. We do have more information. According to Zdarsky, the failsafe arc will follow Bruce Wayne as he is having nightmares of a future he can't stop. There's a chance he might not make it to that future, as a startling enemy from Batman's past has one relentless goal: to end Batman no matter what it takes. While Zdarsky won't reveal whether the startling enemy is new or established, the threat the arc poses will put Bruce to the test. I am of two minds on this. I personally hope it is an established villain, because we've already seen enough characters come into Batman lately that are from his distant past. We've kind of seen that trope used a bit too much with Batman. And Batman does have the best rogues gallery out there. If you had to make me choose on what character this would be, I'd say start out small. We don't need Joker. We don't need, obviously, Scarecrow. We just had that. Maybe it's Professor Pig. Somebody like that, a smaller level villain that's not a huge threat to Batman, although it is a 6-issue story arc, so they probably are a bit more powerful than Professor Pig. But I do hope that he's not introducing a brand new character that's kind of the same thing that we've been seeing a lot, where it's that character was always there, we just never heard of him, because it is a bit cliche. But Chip Zdarsky can do cliche. I'd prefer cliche Chip Zdarsky than original a lot of other writers, to be completely honest. So I couldn't be more excited. I know a lot of people are enjoying the Joshua Williamson run with Jorge and Molina, and I think it's fantastic. It looks great. It reads really good, but it was always going to be essentially a gap before the new Batman writer came on. I thought Batman would reset to a #1 issue. I congratulate DC Comics for not taking the easy way out. And I do imagine an issue 125 plus size, new writer with an artist everybody loves coming back in. This isn't going to have trouble moving units. This isn't following up on the Tom King run when James Tynion took over. And it did take a while for him to get some momentum. I do think Batman has plenty of momentum right now. If DC Comics doesn't, Batman certainly does. He did have a couple of comments, he being Chip Zdarsky, about what this all means to him. When DC approached me to write Batman, I immediately thought about things that could really challenge the character mentally, physically, and in terms of his relationships. Failsafe is his doomsday. When I started mapping out the story, I got really excited about where it could take the title. Saying of Jorge Jimenez, he says, he's a superstar, not just an artist, but a person. He's really delightful and excited about the character and the direction we're going in, which is great. We talked about going darker with the book, and he's been all aboard with some really stunning pages that showcase the tone. I honestly can't say enough good things about Jorge. He creates beauty at an amazing speed. I'm angry that he's also so handsome, as it's just not fair. The only good thing about the pandemic is that I probably won't have to be on a panel next to him, which would only serve to highlight how old and gross I look. If you have not seen Jorge Jimenez, he is indeed a very handsome gentleman. There's no denying that. This is a great pairing. I think Chip Zdarsky and Marco Checchetto is the best pairing, creative pairing at Marvel Comics, and it's not really all that close in my mind, just as far as the writer and the artist highlighting each other and uplifting their work. I think we're getting the same thing with Jorge Jimenez. I'm glad to see that Zdarsky is paying him such high compliments based on the work that he's presented. It's going to look amazing. I do have trepidation with someone saying we're going to take Batman darker. I just read Batman the Imposter. I don't think you can go all that much darker just as far as the characters' relationships and the psyche. Obviously, you can do some more horror elements, whatever. It's going to be hard to go darker than Batman's God in the past. That notwithstanding, this is exactly what I would like to hear. I wish he would highlight a little bit more of the detective aspects of the character, but we haven't been doing that in many comics lately, unfortunately. I wish that was something that was highlighted more by DC Comics about Batman. Sounds like it's going to be more in the movie than probably in the comic books anytime soon. But this is all very exciting stuff. We do have a little bit more information. As the covers for Batman 125, including a main wraparound cover from Jimenez, reveal the Tim Drake version of Robin will be factoring into the challenge that Failsafe poses. Zdarsky says the past few years have had a lot of Batman on his own, with so many Robins in his orbit, but I wanted to really highlight the Batman and Robin aspect of the character while still maintaining the darker feel we're going for. Tim Drake is a favorite of mine, and being able to highlight him here has been a lot of fun. I think a lot of people have been waiting, a lot of Batman fans have been waiting for Tim Drake to return. We haven't had a lot of really good Tim Drake in the Batman universe for several years now. The last time he was really, really highlighted, of course, was with James Tynion in his Detective Comics run. And James Tynion said he was going to play a bigger part in Fear State. That didn't really turn out. He was there a little bit. I'm glad that they're highlighting Tim Drake. It felt like after the big reveal that he was bisexual that they were probably going to let him fall off, which happens to a lot of characters that have the LGBTQ plus reveal. So I'm glad that they're not forgetting Tim Drake. He should be the Robin. Damian Wayne certainly has a claim to the Batman Robin role because he is the son of Bruce Wayne. But Tim Drake really is the Robin that should be with him. He's helped him out through a lot of difficult situations. He's the character most like Bruce Wayne in my mind, analytically speaking, so it makes a wonderful pairing. And hopefully we get to finally see Tim Drake elevated and highlighted as the wonderful sidekick character that he is, and potentially boost him up and elevate him to that status of a Nightwing, a Red Hood, a Damian Wayne, characters that can actually carry their own title in today's marketplace. Not that we don't have enough Batman as it is, but Tim Drake deserves more love, and I'm glad to see Chip Zdarsky and Jorge Jimenez are going to be highlighting that. This is the last piece of information we have. Zdarsky will be the latest writer for Batman since the start of the DC Rebirth reboot, following lengthy runs from Tom King and James Tynion, as well as the current art pen by Joshua Williamson. While we'll have to wait and see Zdarsky's long-term plans for the title, he did tease that we're just getting started. That is great news. Batman is always in better shape when there is a long-term dedicated writer to the title. I think a nice, long, healthy 2 to 3 year run from Chip Zdarsky is what the character needs. Hopefully DC Comics learn their lesson. James Tynion kind of going over to Substack, kind of out of the blue, not with a whole lot of headway to it where they could get prepared for it, that they've locked Chip Zdarsky into some type of longer term agreement, at least 3 years, to come on Batman. Probably going to be a bi-monthly title. It's monthly right now. We'll see what happens as far as that. But a nice, healthy, long-term run with a really good writer exploring new aspects of Batman is something that would be very good for DC Comics. Obviously, Batman is the flagship not only of DC, but of all of American comics. This is a very important decision, and in my mind, DC Comics knocked it right out of the park. DC Comics do have a lot of work to do on some of their other characters within their universe that aren't selling nearly as well as Batman. If you're interested in some information, Josh McDonald from BatmanNews.com and we just did this sit-down conversation, released this video yesterday, kind of talking about the creative decisions DC made that really tanked the sales of Superman, Justice League, Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern. It was really in-depth. It really talks about some of the missteps. If they put Chip Zdarsky on one of these titles, I don't think we'd have this problem.